So, guys, I do want to talk about Hulk Hogan, and he did say something along the lines of that, he wants people to forgive him for using the N word and other things that he's done years and years ago, because people seem to forgive Chris Benoit. And I do have to say a couple of things that, first of all, he's an idiot for saying that. And we all know that Hulk Hogan has a pattern of saying stupid things. Like, he did say that he was, I think he said he was in Metallica or something like that a few years ago. And he's almost like Granddad from the Boondocks. Like, he says ridiculous things and he may have a distorted sense of reality. But the point of it is that, honestly, if he really looks at it, society did forgive him because, look, he was taken out of the WWE Hall of Fame. He was put back in there. I believe, and he was also on WrestleMania and other things like that. He's been in segments, so definitely WWE forgave him, and a lot of fans did forgive him. But honestly, there are people who will not forgive Hulk Hogan for what he said, really. And I do understand, obviously, as people said, and I agree with OTR Central, when Hulk Hogan was caught saying the N-word, honestly, taking him out of the Hall of Fame was stupid, even though it was damage control. But because, as people said, Chris Benoit is never going to go in the Hall of Fame. But honestly, taking Hulk Hogan out of the Hall of Fame for saying the N-word is stupid because, that's not the same thing. Saying the word nigger is not the same as somebody killing his wife and kid and hanging himself. And then also, you look at the hypocrisy of the WWE Hall of Fame. You have Donald Trump, who's in the celebrity wing. You have Mike Tyson, a convicted rapist, in the celebrity wing. And Donald Trump is known for racism. He's known for being controversial. You have Jerry Springer, I believe, who's in the WWE Hall of Fame, and you look at his controversial television. He's had Ku Klux Klan members and other things on it. You also have the fabulous Moolah, who was very sexually who prostituted her client. She's in the WWE Hall of Fame. You got Andre the Giant. I believe he called the Junkyard Dog a nigger, and he was known for being a racist as well, really. You have Michael PSAs, who said he was more of a nigger than Mark Henry, so definitely it is a little hypocritical. So I understand that argument of hypocrisy. But I also will say that I think a lot of people are not, what's the word? A lot of people are not happy with Hulk Hogan for a couple of things. I think what he has to understand, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, yes, he used the N-word publicly. The other thing that he did was that, obviously he was at the Trump rally, and he did that Hulkamania thing. So there's a lot of people who are not a fan of Donald Trump because he represents misogyny, racism, and other extremes. So that's why, people may not like him concurrently. And I also think that he has to understand that there is a changing of generations. There's a lot of people. I remember a few years ago, this was really funny. They said, who was the best WWE champion of all time? This is when Hogan was in TNA. He beat John Cena by a landslide. But nowadays, a lot of people are going to say John Cena was the best WWE champion because Hulk Hogan is not as relevant. People are so removed from the 1980s. The same way, if you had Hogan and Ric Flair and Bruno Sammartino, and you did a poll in the early 90s, more than likely Bruno Sammartino or Ric Flair would be number one because in the 90s, people were not that far removed from the 70s, really. So you also have to understand, too, maybe he's not as popular because, the 80s was so long ago, and he doesn't have the same luster. But it's definitely a really stupid thing to say. He was already forgiven. He was allowed to come back on WWE television and do a bunch of different segments. I really think that if he thinks people are not liking him now, it's because of, hulking up at the Trump rally and just destroying his shirt, really. Because, again, that looks pathetic and stupid. I mean, it's always been pathetic and stupid, but it looks more pathetic and stupid. But all I gotta say is that, I think when WWE took him out of the Hall of Fame and everything like that, it was because, obviously, they were just trying to react to the situation. He said the word nigger. He was fucking somebody's wife, and he had a sex tape. Really, that's not something WWE wanted to be represented by. They're in the PG era, so I do credit them for just being very reactionary, and that's what they need to do, really, because obviously they need to separate from that. And I understand how that's very hypocritical. You have Vince McMahon saying, "Keep it up, my nigga." You have all this sexual stuff coming out, and it was known for decades. And then this man steps down instead of being fired or whatever. Really, like he had a history of sexual predatory behavior. So I understand the hypocrisy. So I understand like that perspective from Hulk Hogan, but I do think that he was given a second chance. After the damage was done, he was able to rebuild himself. And I think, as I said, his apology was half-assed. He said it was more about making sure you are aware of cameras and other things that are on you, instead of just saying, okay, you know what, I used the word nigger, it was not okay for various reasons. And why we don't use that word, and so I think that's a little like just stupid. It's just him being stupid. He was forgiven. And also, there's not a lot. There are people who want Chris Benoit to be in the Hall of Fame, but that's never going to happen. There's going to be no redemption thing unless they find out that somebody else did it. But that's never going to happen, really. I think that, as I said, one of the tragedies that Nancy Benoit is never going to be in the WWE Hall of Fame because of all that controversy. But I also will say that, and off tangent, I don't mind using the N word in this because I'm mixed race. There's also that rule about the N-word pass. And also, I've been called nigger by a lot of white people in my life, including family members. And also, I remember going to college and hearing that a lot. So I may use that. I'll use that word just because I want it to be, I want to just be, just real. Because, nigger and N-word don't sound the same. If Hulk Hogan said the word nigger, I want to, say that. And other things like that, just because, we need to be fair and balanced. That's not a word anybody should say. But sometimes those words need to be brought up in certain contexts so people understand just, the context of the situation. Yes, saying the N-word is not as bad as somebody murdering their wife and kid and then killing themselves to get out of consequences. And then the other thing, too, about Hulk Hogan is that, he should have understood that he was forgiven and he was given a second chance, really. So it's definitely, just stupid that it was definitely stupid for him to have this argument in the first place, but he's somebody who does have a lot of stupid arguments.